you ready? Are you sure? Okay, all right. You've been good so far? Yes? Okay, first off, I'm just glad I get to go to day one, and then I get to sit down for the rest of it and just take it in. All right, is it okay if we get, by the way, let me ask this question. How many of you, let me see where I can get here. How many of you miss the pandemic a little bit, where every day looked like that? Do you miss it just a little bit? Like how many of us were like, I got to put pants on? Thank you. By the way, Coach Jeff Rising, thank you, dude. Woo! All right, let's jump into this. So let me ask you this question. Have you ever had a tough day? Okay. It's probably because, is it okay if we're just real in this room? Yes? Okay, with three of you, thank you. Is it okay if I curse a little bit? Jesus knows about it. We talked. He's still working on me. All right, like it's a process, but he knows. Okay? Just so you know, he knows it's our thing. All right, here's what I'm going to say. You're fucked up. Like, if you're ever wondering, am I fucked up? Like, yeah, you are. Have you ever had, it's learning to work through our fucked upness that is really the beautiful part of this journey. Yes? Right? Are you with me? So let me say this. Have you ever, you don't need to raise your hands yet. I just want to have a real conversation. I think one of the things I'm learning in my life is I'm getting kind of tired of bullshit conversations. Would you agree? Right? One day my wife's like, you're really bad at small talk. And I'm like, yeah, and I'm kind of okay with that now. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't really care how the Dallas, Cowboys are doing. They're losing. Bro, I love you. We've been losing for a long time, okay? Like, I don't need to talk about it. Here's what I want to say. I don't want you to raise your hand, but how many of you in here have contemplated at some point taking your life? Thank you for here's what I know. What I know is there's some people that aren't in this room because they lost that battle. Are you with me? Here's what I know. We talk about entrepreneurs. Look at our depression stats. Being an entrepreneur, a business leader, we're twice as likely to struggle with depression. Right? Look at our ADHD numbers, right? There's enough Adderall and Vyvanse in this room to restart your heart, okay? If you don't have some of that, your neighbor does, right? We can start a pharmacy for entrepreneurs today, I guarantee it, okay? Look at our addiction numbers, look at our bipolar. Like, it's tough to do this, would you agree? Right? It was about 11 years ago. I looked fantastic to the outside world. I was involved in my church. I was involved in my community. I had 2.5 kids. Everything looked good. And yet, have you ever realized that you had that moment where it looks good on the outside, yet inside, not so much? Have you had that? Right? Like inside, I was at war. Inside, no congruency. Inside, right? Like not okay. To the point where I was laying on the floor of a vacant building. And I had made the decision to take my life. And up until that point, I don't know if I really understood suicide up until that point, because I think probably before that moment, I would have thought, maybe that's kind of selfish. Who would do that, right? And yet in that moment, I truly believed that my kids and everyone else would be so much better off if I just checked out. I believed that was on my heart at that moment. Fortunately, I had this thought come to my head, or something, call it God, nature, wherever you want to call it. And this voice said, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming. And what I realized in that moment was, it wasn't the people that didn't love or care about me, yet I realized that it didn't matter what anybody else said, the only person on this planet that could save me at that moment was me. And I had two choices. I could either check out, or I could choose to be my own hero in that moment. And attempt this journey back up. What I told myself is, even if it takes 20 years and I recover, would it be worth it? And what that led me on is a journey of realizing that so many of us we're ill-equipped. Are you with me? It's not like we're not broken or stupid. We just we don't have some of the tools we need to be able to thrive in this world and in the jobs we're doing. Does that make sense? So is it okay today if I'm not going to talk about VAs, even though we have some and we love them? Is it okay if I just spend a couple minutes just equipping you and empowering you? Yes? Okay. I think inspiration wears off the moment you hit the door, but empowerment's got nothing to do with me and it sticks with you forever. Is that cool? All right, turn to your neighbor and say, let's go. All right, good. All right, here we go. So here's three ahas I had. Three realizations that I had when I went through that time. The first one was this. The first one was I kind of had Prince Charming syndrome. Have you ever had Prince Charming syndrome? Like you're kind of waiting for someone. All the dudes are like, no. What is he talking about? Right? But if you're ever at the moment where you're like kind of waiting for someone to show up and save you. Right? Somebody comes and goes, oh man, you are awesome. Let me give you that amazing promotion or whatever it is. We can have these moments where we're kind of waiting for someone else to save us or our spouse to change, our kids to change, whatever it is. And we go like, if this happens, then I'll be happy. And it doesn't happen. Are you with me? Right? Nobody's coming to save you. The only person that can save you is you. Yes or yes? Here's the second thing, the second realization I had looking back in that time. The second one was I had a lot of failure. Right? I'd failed at a lot of things. I'd failed in my marriage. I'd had an affair. I had lost my businesses. I had done. I had not just tapped rock bottom. I had nailed rock bottom. Right? Go big. I just went the wrong direction. Right? Nailed rock bottom. And what I realized was I saw myself. Let me say it this way. Brian's heard the story too many times. Yet, have you ever taught your a kid how to ride a bike? Right? Some of you have. Some of you are terrible parents. You need to go home and teach your kids how to ride bikes. Right, like we're supposed to do that, yeah. Right, so how have you ever done? So I taught my son a little while ago how to ride a bike. So you sit him on the bike and they go off, right? They pedal a little bit, and then what happens? They unless you have like super kid, right? They fall off, right? And you do that a couple times, right? Now, when they fall off, do you run over and go, faller? You're just a little faller, like this is not your gig, faller. Me, Johnny the faller. Like if you're doing that, please come talk to me. Right? No, you go over to your kid and you go, dude, you just fell. It's okay. Right? You just fell. What I realized is when we become adults and we start maturing, instead of saying, I fell, we start going, I'm a failure. I'm not a faller. I just fell down. I'm not a failure, but I've had some. I love the quote from Eric Thomas where he says, failure is a bruise, not a tattoo. I was walking around all inked up with my failures in my mind. Are you with me? Right? You're going to have some, yet I realized that, hey, they are bruises and I can work through bruises, right? Stop labeling myself. Make sense? Here's the third thing I realized. The third thing I realized was I wasn't equipped to get back up. Right? How many of you, have you ever had that beautiful experience of getting home with your 3 kids? It's like 6 o'clock, you got groceries in the back seat. You realize you've locked yourself out of the house. Have you ever had this moment like ice cream starts melting? Your kids form like tribes. They're trying to kill one off. Like it gets weird. Yes? Right? Right? If you got 3 kids, you know what happens, right? Somebody's getting voted off the island. In this case, it's the van. The ice cream is melting. You're losing your mind, right? So what do? You call the locksmith. Locksmith charges you 18 times more because it's like 6 minutes after 5 o'clock. Shows up in an hour and a half, right? Unlocks the door. What's the next thing you do? Either that night or the next morning, what do? You go get a hidey key. You get a key made, right? You go out, you get a key made, and you make a hidey key, or you give a key to a neighbor, whatever it is. In your mind, you go, I'm never going to let that happen again. What do I need to do? Yes? Here's what happens as entrepreneurs. Have you ever got locked out of your mind, like you had a bad day? If you're in real estate, you know that deals don't fall apart one at a time. It's like good, 8. Yes? Have you ever had, I don't know why that is, right? It's always like 10 at a time, right? But here's what happens as entrepreneurs. We get locked out of our mind. We reach in our toolbox, and the problem is the only tool most entrepreneurs have is hammer. And we just go, I just got to work harder. Work harder, work more hours, just make work, right? Like, hammer's a great tool, but if you want to, like, change the toilet, you're going to need more than just a hammer. Are you with me? What I realize is most entrepreneurs are ill-equipped and we don't have the tools, right? We don't have the spare tire. And let me say it this way. We have all these things in our physical world to recover and prepare for tough times. We got a first aid kit. We got a spare tire. We got a hidey key, right? All this stuff. And yet as entrepreneurs, we don't have hardly any in our mental world. Are you with me? Right? Do you have great strategies to recover when you have bad days? Most of us just reach our tool bag and we just reach for hammer. Yes or yes? Do you need to build some hidey keys in your life? All right, can I give you a couple today? Yes or yes? Okay. Here's what I want you to, a couple questions I'm going to ask you. Could this be, let me ask this question. Could this be the best year of your life? Okay. What would it take for this to be the best year of your life? Who said that over there? No, more problems. Okay, there you go. All right. So here's what most people say when I ask that question, right? Because they're not freaks like you in this room. But I love, this is my room, by the way. You're fucked up. You're freaks. You're amazing. You just use hammer all the time. Like, we're good to go. Right? But here's what happens. Right? Most people go, hey, what would it take for this to be the best year of your life? And most people begin to answer questions like this, like, if I didn't have a lot of financial problems, if all my VAs worked perfect, if my team members turned in their tracking sheets, dear God. Right? Like, we have all this stuff, yes? And basically in the back of our mind, we go, if this were a year that didn't have a whole lot of problems, it could be the best year of my life. The problem is, if you have a problem-free life, you got a bigger problem because you're not actually living life, yes? Right? Here's my question for you. What would it take for this to actually be the best year of your life, even if it wasn't a problem-free year? I saw this commercial years ago, and it stayed with me. The commercial said it was for this amazing college, and it said all these pictures of the college. It's a great college. You should come here. Most people say college is the best 4 years of their life. That's why you should spend it here. Most people say college is the best 4 years of their entire life. Y'all, I want college to be good, but that's messed up. Are you with me? Right? How many people do you know they're still talking about high school? Right? They didn't even get to the college level, right? Right? They're still like, I love you, bro, but that was a minute ago. Like, has anything? It's been 40 years, right? Like, what's happened? Right? Right? But most people, that was the last time that they were kind of problem free. So here's my question for you. What if problems are actually the path to happiness? Now, that sounds nice until you have them, right? Yeah, here's my question for you. What is somebody, have you ever met an older person that you like are interviewing, you're asking them, what are you most proud of? What are the highlights of your life? Those kinds of things. When their eyes light up is usually when they tell you about something really tough they went through. Isn't that true? Right? They go, you know what? That time that we lost all our funding and we figured it out. Right? The time where the whole team quit on a Tuesday and we had to figure things out. The time when I didn't have the support and I had to go find it. I don't believe we accomplish happiness. I believe happiness is the byproduct of choosing problems and tackling them. And being proud of the person that tackled and chose those problems. Are you with me? Okay. Isn't it weird that we complain about the problems we've chosen? How weird would it be if you went to your doctor this afternoon and you go, man, how's your practice? And he goes, that's pretty good, except for like sick people keep showing up. Like, I hate that part. Right, you went to your mechanic, you're like, how's business? He goes, that's pretty good, except like people keep bringing broke-ass cars. What's up with that? Right? How weird would it be if you went to a realtor and they go, oh, my buyers changed their mind. Like, that's the whole gig, y'all. Are you with me? Right? Like, that's no different than the doctor complaining about sick people coming and showing up. Right? If it was super easy, Rocket Mortgage would just take us all out, right? It's the problems that actually are the path, yes or yes? My belief is you would be more lit up if you chose your problems. And if you chose bigger problems. I think most people, their issue is, their biggest problem is what they're going to do tomorrow night, not something that lights them up. Does that make sense? So in order for this to be the best year of your life, I think the first thing you got to decide is, what problems do I want to tackle this next year? So give me some answers. What problems do you want to tackle? What would light you up? Let me ask this. Have you ever struggled to do some of the work you know you need to do? Right? Door knock, make the form, finish taxes. Let me ask you this question. If I imagine I brought someone in here right now, and I brought a young family, right? Dad, mom, a couple kids, they're 6 and 5, whatever it is. And I said, he lost his job. They have no family support, and they're living in their van right now. Now, here's the deal. If you nail it for the next 30 days, and you're able to give them $5,000, it changes the trajectory of their life. Gives them enough to get a little bit settled. And if I could give you a crystal ball and say 10 years from now, that's the moment, but you only got 30 days to do it. 30 days, here's they are. What are you going to do? My guess is you'd be lit up AF to go do some doors. Right? You'd be lit up AF to call your database and do what you needed to do. We don't have big enough problems, y'all. Are you with me? What's some of the problems you want to choose this next year? There was a man years ago who, it was one of Jack Canfield's friends, and he came to Jack and he said, Jack, I'm not really happy. I don't know what to do. Right? So Jack Canfield literally wrote like all the chicken soups, like he's probably the guy to answer the question, right? At least if he's read some of his books. Right? So he goes to Jack and goes, hey, I'm not really happy. What do I do? And Jack says, well, walk me through this. He says, well, I've had a pretty good life, and yet early on in my life, I thought if I made a bunch of money, that would make me happy. He goes, so I went out and did that. I made a bunch of money and realized that didn't make me happy. So he said, so then I decided if I buy some stuff. Right? How many of us have been on this journey, right? If I buy some stuff, then I'll be happy, right? And he goes, that didn't make me happy. So I decided to buy bigger, different stuff, right? To the point where this guy's buying like NFL teams, right? And still not happy. He goes, I don't know what to do. Jack said, in about a month from now, we're going on this trip. We're going to go to a country in South Africa that has been, ravaged by war. And we're going to take some medical supplies and stuff like that. Why don't you just come on the trip? We'll talk on the way there. We'll talk on the way back. The guy said, sure, let's go. They fly over there, and first day they just kind of get settled in. Second day, they're at this little village, and there's so many people in this village that have been hit by landmines that were left behind, right? They've lost limbs, legs, all those different things, right? And they got this big truck, and they're giving out wheelchairs and walkers and all that kind of crutches and everything else. And Jack Canfield's friend goes over to the truck, and he pulls out this kid's wheelchair, right? And he takes his wheelchair and he brings it over and he sits it down. And there's this little 7-year-old boy, right? And who has lost both of his legs. And Jack Canfield's friend picks up the little boy and sits him in the walker. And as soon as he sits him in the walker, the boy just looks up and grabs his face. And he can't understand what the boy's saying, right? Because the language barrier, right? But the boy's got a hold of his face and he's saying something. And all of a sudden the interpreter walks by and Jack's friend says, will you let him know that this is his? He can have it and let go of my face. Right? And the interpreter listens for a second as the boys just hold on for dear life. And the interpreter says, sir, he's asking for just one more minute. Because he wants to be able to remember your face so when he gets to heaven, he can say thank you again. Okay? And the guy said at that moment he realized what the money and success was about. Are you with me? It's a big problem. The first thing I'm going to ask you to do, and I want you to think about this over the next day or two. What's the problem you want to have this next year? What's the problem that lights you up? What pisses you off that you actually want to do something about? What pisses me off is people not seeing their greatness. I feel like I was put here on this earth to help people see their greatness and then have the tools to tap into it. Right? I love that I figured out a problem that lights me out. Right? I think most of us need that. What problems do you want this year? Here's the second thing. The second decision you got to make this year is how are you going to respond? And here's what I know. All of you know this, and yet it's worth repeating. Right? We've all heard this, that the event plus the what? Right? The events plus response plus the action we take equals the outcome. Yes? Are you going to have some unfair events this year? Yes or yes? Right? I'm a terrible motivational speaker. This year's going to suck. You're like, this guy is, I don't know where you found this guy. Right? This year's going to be tough. You're going to have some stuff. Yes or yes? Right? Right? So here's the question. And is some of that stuff going to be unfair? Somebody's going to cut you off, right? The stuff that's going to happen, it's your reaction that makes all the impact in your life. Yes or yes? Right? Here's what I want you to consider. There was a couple of years ago, I saw this on Shark Tank, and this couple came on Shark Tank, and it was a husband and wife, and they had this company called Grace and Lace, and they were selling those cute boot socks or whatever you call them, and the sharks are asking, what's behind the company? Where did you come up with it? What's behind the name? And they said, well, actually, our daughter Grace passed away 2 years ago. She was only like 3 years old. And they said, we decided to do something really cool in her name. So all the proceeds from this company, right? And then it started showing this video of these villages for young girls that taught them how to cook and how to make and how to take care of themselves and how to read, right? Right? And there's hundreds of little girls in this village that's funded because of Grace and Lace. Right? Now, I don't think that removes an iota of the pain that they are going. I don't think they ever don't miss their daughter. I don't think it removes the pain at all. But what a really, really cool response. Are you with me? Huh? This year, you're going to have some stuff that happens. What's going to be your response? What are you going to do? Here's what I want you to consider. This is this is my gift I wanted to give to you. I think Justin is phenomenal. I love that man. I love the impact he's had on my life. And I want to give this to you. This is the book that I wrote after I got back up. And what I want you to do is you can go buy it on Amazon and buy 1,000 copies. Or you can go get it for free. So grab it free. But what I want you to write down is write down page number 87. Write 87 in your book. On page 87, there's a list of questions that I wish I would have had when I hit rock bottom. A friend of mine, some of you know him because he lives here locally, but he said, I think my dad would still be around if he had those questions. Right? My goal is to equip you. I want you to look at that toolbox and have a whole lot of stuff to pull from. Are you with me? What's going to be your response? Some things are going to happen that are not fair this year, but your response is going to make all the outcome. Yes? Okay, here's the last one. The last one is this. Your emotional state this year is going to make a huge impact on your year. Agreed? Have you ever seen somebody swerving down the highway? What's like the first thought in your head when you see somebody swerving, like trucks driving like crazy? I love that man. I'm sure he drives crazy, right? But you see cars swerving down the road, right? What's the first thought that goes through your mind usually? Drunk, texting, yada, yada, right? Like, it's not like, oh, have a great day. It's like, I can't believe, right? We think something negative usually, right? So here's what I want you to understand. You can reframe your world at any time. I was teaching a bold class one time, and we were talking about perceptions and everything else, and this lady in the back of the room said, hold on. She said, it could be that your husband's in the front seat driving as fast as he can. You're in the back seat with your 6-year-old daughter. You're giving her CPR, and it's not working. And he's trying to get you to the hospital as fast as he can. She goes, that was us not very long ago. Do you think now when I see a car swerving down the road, I have a different thought? Right? First thought in my mind now is a little prayer, and I hope they're okay. Right? Years ago, I'd been teaching Bold, 4 or 5 days a week. It's in a different city every single day, which was amazing, and left me somewhat exhausted sometimes, as Brian and some of you know. So there's this one week, just a couple years ago, and I finally got home. It was late on a Thursday night, and I finally got to, you ever lay your head down on, your home pillow? And it's just like a beautiful spiritual experience, right? Oh God, this is amazing, right? So I finally lay down. I'm going to get 7 minutes of sleep. And as my head hits the pillow, I hear my daughter, who's about 2 at the time, upstairs begin to cry. First thought through my head was not hallelujah, right? First thought through my head was like, are you kidding me? I'm going to get 8 minutes of sleep and you're messing with that. Fortunately, I had the presence of mind that I'd been teaching Bold all week and mindset and everything else. So I laid there and I go, I can change this. I want to have a different experience. And I lay there, and what hit me was a friend of mine, Mitchell. And I remember a couple years prior, he had I sold his house because his daughter, who was about 1.5, passed away in the middle of the night to SIDS. I remember standing with him on the curb because he couldn't even walk on the property. Right? I hope none of you have ever experienced that. The soul pain is indescribable. And I'm laying in bed, and what hits me is Mitchell's face. And I realized Mitchell would give anything in the world to be woken up by his daughter right now. I don't have to go check on my daughter. I get to. Right? He would give anything to have this experience. The one shift I'm going to invite you to consider to have this year is go from have to get to. Right? One day I'm picking up my son at school, and he goes, hey, Dad, why are you picking up today? Mom usually does. And I said, oh, sorry, dude. Mom had some stuff come up, so I had to come get you. This little voice in the back seat says, sorry, Dad. You ever kids ever say anything? It was like a knife just come through the right. I'm like, oh, my gosh, right? He's apologizing. How many people would love to have to go get their kid from school? I got to pick my son up. They're like, what's it like to be able to have a son? Right? How many of us in this room are going, man, I have to make some calls, and they go, what's it like to have a job? I got to go pick up my cars in the shop, right? And they go, what's it like to be able to have a car? Right? I'm not saying rainbows and butterflies, like everything's super easy. But we do have the ability to change our mind that fast from have to get to. Right? I don't have to implement what I got today. I get to. I don't have to go pick up my kids. I get to. I don't have to make some calls. I get to. Are you with me? You can change it that fast. Yes or yes. So I want you to think about that this year. Here's what I want you to consider. Let me give you two more things. Let me ask this. Is it tough to be in this room sometimes? Here's what I mean by that. How many of you walk in this room and you hear like amazing person after amazing person after amazing person walk across the stage? Right? I'm doing 7,000 transactions. I'm doing 17 billion. I closed Canada. It's crazy up in this room, right? Right? You're like, I don't know, I made $1 million an hour. And I'm like, I checked to see if I could do the Starbucks thing this morning, right? Here's what I want you to realize. A room like this can be really, really tough because we start comparing ourselves to others. And I want you to remember this. Comparison is the greatest thief of joy. Right? Comparison is the greatest thief of joy. Here's what I'm going to ask you to consider this week. I'm going to ask you to consider using this as inspiration instead of comparison. Here's the reality. It's easy for us to compare ourselves to others, right? When all you see is their highlight reel. What I know is so many of us in here are pretending to be okay, and yet every single one of us in here probably struggling with something nobody else knows about. Right? I remember one of my mentors said one time, he said, every single time you walk in a room, somebody's thinking about throwing in the towel. Somebody in that room is thinking about throwing in the towel. It's easy to pretend or feel like you got to act like everything's okay, and it's not okay sometimes. Are you with me? What I want you to consider is in the next couple of days is I want you to reckon. Here, listen to this stat. Who are we trying to live for anyway? They say that of the small percentage of people that come to your funeral, 70% of those people are going to decide to come to your graveside afterwards based on the weather. Y'all, who are we trying to impress? Are you with me? What I really realize is we're trying to compare ourselves to others. The problem is, right, like we didn't start at the same place, right? We don't have the same goals. We're not going to the same place. I'm trying to compare my Monopoly game to your snakes and ladders, and it's messing me up. Are you with me? Right, those powerful conversations you're going to have in this room in the next couple of days is the one you have with you. And if it's I'm fucked up, I'm not enough, I'm fucked up, I'm not enough, and you do that for 3 days, it's going to be pretty hard to go implement and do everything, yes? Right? Do you wish you were further along? Yes, everyone in this room does, right? I love my 12-year-old son said this to me a couple months ago. He said, Dad, somebody's always going to be doing better than you. Okay, like you should be a motivational speaker like me. Right? Life's going to suck. Go get it. No, right? But here's what I took from his wonderful wisdom. Somebody's always going to be doing better, and somebody's always going to be doing worse, right? But if I'm basing my happiness on trying to compare with everybody else, I am screwed. Are you with me? Right? So who's your hero? My hero is who I can be 3 years from now. That's what I'm looking up to. Are you with me? Right? You know what? There's someone who didn't do as well as I've done. There's someone who didn't make the decision. Right? I do have some stuff to be proud of. Are you with me? Right? And yet, it's not complacency. If I'm not a little bit better tomorrow than I was today, that's a problem. Yes or yes? But I'm going to run my race with me and not anybody else. So the next couple of days, I ask you, use these amazing people as inspiration, but don't dare let it touch your heart as comparison. Are you with me? If we role model that for our teams and our kids and everything else, we're setting them up for failure. But you role model, you racing you, it gets pretty awesome. Yes or yes? Here's one thing I want to ask you to do. First off, turn to your neighbor and say, I'm fucked up and you are too. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. Yeah. Some of you all, I knew he was going to get us to swear. I knew it was going to happen. Jesus heard it. All right, here's what I want you to realize. You did not come this far to just come this far. Yes or yes? Right? You did not. Let me say it again. You did not come this far to just come this far. Yes? Right? Do you realize most of the wealthiest people in the world started like their real journey at like 50, 60, 70? Right? Like, look it up. There's that, right? You got to do you. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to ask you to do 2 things, right? First off, get my book, get those questions, and fill up your tool bag. Second thing is I want you to write this number down. Get a pen out. I want you to write this number down. 469 500 3642. 469 500 3642. That's my personal cell phone, not my VA cell phone. Yet. I want you to put that in your phone as, if you're having a tough day or if you need some help, I want you to call that number. You with me? I'm tired of losing amazing people that had a really shitty day. Are you with me? You want to grow your business, you want to get stuff put together, like, let's have a conversation. I pray after this event, you make a couple decisions. I hope that if you don't, I hope you get a coach. I hope you figure out some leverage and get a VA in your life. And I hope you choose to run your own race, whatever that means to you. Right? Here's what I know. I believe, Zig Ziglar used to always say this. Zig Ziglar used to say you were born to win. Right? Love it. Let me leave you with this. I believe you were born to win, and I believe you were born to be the hero of your story. And by being your own hero, you empower others to go out and be their own hero. Are you with me? Okay. Stand up. Give yourself a round. Thank you for having me. Stand up. Give your neighbor 2 high fives. I love you. Thank you for being here.